ఇంటర్మీడియట్ విద్యారంగంలో అగ్రగామి మన ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్. ఐఐటి జేఈఈ అయినా నీట్ అయినా తిరుగులేని విద్యా సంస్థ ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్.
So guys, we are in the discussion about transport in plants. We were discussing about the numericals. Now in transport in plants, now let us today see that what is the very important concepts and most of the questions have arisen from where, which corner of transport in plants. Once the theory part of the transport in plants is completely studied and we have some one or two numericals are there. After we complete the numericals, let us see which concepts of transport in plants we need to stress more, which are having more repeated appearance in the final NEET entrance and also in AIIMS entrance. Now we will see some of the questions, we will discuss some of the questions in transport in plants. So let us continue the numericals. Now continue the numericals in terms of DPD. What is DPD? DPD is also called as diffusion pressure deficit, or itself is also called as suction pressure. Itself is also called as what? Suction pressure. Now let us take some questions on this. Let us take the first question. Two cells A and B are contagious. Contagious meaning A cell is connected with B cell. We say two cells A and B are contagious, means A cell is connected with B cell. Then the osmotic pressure generally we write, we take it as OP, the osmotic pressure, and turgor pressure TP. So OP means osmotic pressure and TP means turgor pressures. Values are so for given below, values are given below. That means in the question we generally take the two parameters, osmotic pressure is given, turgor pressure is given, and that one cell is continuation with another cell. Two cells are contagious. Then what is find out? The values are given below. Find out DPD values and direction of movement of water. Find out DPD values and also find out the direction of movement of water. So in the question the two cells are continuation with one another, osmotic pressure, turgor pressure values are given below. Find out DPD values, we have to find out DPD and the direction of movement of water. For example, for cell A it is given that let us take OP, it is given that 7 atmospheric pressure and TP is given it as 3 atmospheric pressure. Now for cell B it is given that 8 what is called 10 atmospheric pressure and what is called, this is OP value, and other one is given it as 2 atmospheric pressure, that is given as TP value. Okay, so in the given below values are nothing but for cell A OP value is 7, TP value is 3, for cell B OP value is 10, TP value is 2. Now what is the formula for DPD? Now find out the DPD values, accordingly we can find out the direction of movement. So what is the formula for DPD? So DPD is equal to, we all have to remember, OP minus TP. How do you calculate DPD? Because DPD is nothing but cell is in need of how much amount of water. To compensate the cell to bring into the state how much amount of water is needed, that is called diffusion pressure deficit. As it absorbs the water, it is also called as what? Suction pressure. right. So, how do you calculate? dPd is equal to OP minus Tp. For cell A, let us take for cell A, what are the values? 7 minus 3, how much you will get it as? 4 atmospheric pressure. This is the dPd value for A. Coming to dPd value for cell B, if you take same thing I am writing here, OP minus Tp, that is the thing. What, how much is OP here? 10 minus 2, we get approximately 8 atmospheric pressure. This is the dPd value for B. Now, what, where to where the direction? These are the dPd values. dPd value for A we got 4 atmospheric pressure, dPd value for B we got 8 atmospheric pressure. Then movement of water happens from where to where now? So, we already have discussed, if you talk in terms of movement of water, where to where the movement of water happens? Higher water potential to lower water potential. But here in this question, water potential values are not given. Then what are given? dPd values are given. So, try to remember very important note points in this case. The movement of water happens from lower dPd to higher dPd, lower dPd to higher dPdt. So, both are what you call reversible. Water potential values, if you take, the movement happens from higher to lower. When you take dPd values, then you have to see the water movement occurs from low dPd to high dPd. Now, out of A cell is there and B cell is there, which one is having lower water potential, lower dPd is for A. So, this has low dPd, and the one which has here 8 atmosphere, it has high dPd. So, the movement happens from low dPd to high dPd, the movement happens from A to B. That means movement of water, better you write down here, the movement of water, the movement of water occurs from A to B. This is important. So, in this case we can write that is A to B. Very important, right? What you have to remember? Water potential you can take it as higher to lower, but when you talk in terms of dPd values, we always take that water movement happens from low dPd to higher dPd, right? So, this is what you have to remember. This is a general formula which we have to apply for generally solving the questions, right? Then let us take next question. Cell A having OP value is something like 8 atmosphere, TP value something like 2 atmospheric pressure. Let us take it grad, and let us take cell B is having OP value is given it as something like 10, or you can take 11 atmosphere, and TP value is given it as something around 3 atmosphere. Right, but here, so here the condition what is applied here, it is nothing but a placid cell. Whenever in the question if it is given for a placid cell, so what is the formula we have to apply for a placid cell? For a placid cell, find out if both cells are placid, then find out dPd values. So, what is the thing given? Cell A is having OP 8, TP is 2 atmosphere, and cell B is nothing but OP 11 atmosphere, TP 3 atmosphere. Now, imagine these are placid cells. A is placid cell, B is a placid cell. So, for a placid cell, incoming water, outgoing water, they both will be 0. Why? Because it completely becomes shrunken protoplast. It completely becomes a shrunken protoplast. For a placid cell, you all have remembered I have given the formula dPd is equal to OP minus of TP, right? Then what is the formula we have to apply? dPd is equal to OP plus TP. Yes or no? For a placid cell, what is the formula? OP minus of TP. That means dPd is equal to OP plus TP. Earlier case what we have applied? What is the general formula for dPd? If you take the general formula for dPd, dPd is equal to OP minus TP. This is a general formula. But what is a placid cell formula? The placid cell formula is, it's not minus, it becomes what? Plus. Now calculate the dPd value for cell A. For cell A, the dPd value is equal to OP minus OP plus TP. OP plus TP. That means here 8 plus 2, you will get around 10 atmospheric pressure. This is for A cell. Coming to B cell, because A and B both are placid cells. So for placid cells, for a placid cell or for a placid cell, when A is a placid cell, or let us take it grant B is a placid cell, if both are placid cells, then the formula what you have to apply is dPd is equal to OP plus TP. So this is a formula which we have to apply. Now let us calculate for B. So for B is also same, dPd is equal to OP plus TP we are applying. That means here 11 plus 3, it becomes 14 atmospheric pressure, right. But still we have to take, movement always occurs from where to where? The movement always occurs from low dPd to high dPd, right. That is low dPd is 10 atmosphere, this is having low dPd, this is having high dPd. So movement again occurs from where to where? From A to B. That means low dPd to high dPd values. Suppose for example in the question, so let us take this is question number 2. So here we take into consideration for a placid cell, right. They will give some values. For example, in the question, if they give about a turgid cell, then what we have to do? This is for a placid cell. Now let us discuss about for a turgid cell. Now remember, for a turgid cell, take into grant that dPd value is 0. dPd value is 0. For a turgid cell, we have to take into consideration of dPd value is 0. Now 0 itself is highest value. For example, we can take that cell A is a dPd, let us take some dPd value, let us take the cell A itself is having 8 atmospheric pressure, and let us take cell B is taken it as a turgid cell. In the given question, cell A dPd value is given as 8 atmosphere and said to be cell B is kept in a turgidity. That means cell B is a turgid cell. When you take cell B is a turgid cell, that means what is the dPd value for this? dPd value itself is 0. Suppose if you take dPd value itself is 0, 0 itself is the greatest value. 0 itself is a greatest value. Why it is greatest? Suppose for example it is given in terms of minus. For example, not to confuse the cases where minus is given. Then what you have to do? 0 itself is the greatest value. Minus 8 becomes a lesser value. When you go to minus 8, minus 7, minus 6, minus 5, minus 2, minus 1, 0. Minus 8 is the lower value and 0 itself is a greater value. At that time what happens again? A to B. Again the movement happens from where to where? The movement happens from again A to B, because A is having low dPd when compared with B is having high DPD, because DPD 0 itself is a greatest value. Again the movement happens from A to B, right. So, when conditions are given for a Placid cell is given, take the formula OP minus OP plus TP. For a turgid cell, remember, if at all in the question if they mention that cell B is in turgid or it is a turgid cell, then you have to take the DPD value itself as 0. Even if you take 0, 0 itself is considered as a greatest value. If at all, if other DPD is given in terms of minus values, at that time no confusion, again the movement is low DP to high DPD, that is from A to B, but generally for turgid cell DPD value totally becomes 0. So, these are the few conditions which you have to remember in terms of diffusion pressure deficit. Next question, the solute potential of something like P cell, solute potential value of Q cell are given it as, let us take minus 0.3 and this is nothing but minus 0.5. Solute potential values are given it as, for P cell is minus 0.3, for Q cell as minus 0.5. And similarly, let us take the pressure potential values of P cell is given that, let us take 0.2, and the pressure potential value of Q cell is given it as something like 0.7. Okay. So, when you take in terms of the values here, pressure potential values and solute potential values are given. Let us take P and Q, then they ask you to find out the water potential difference between P and Q. Find out the water potential difference between P and Q. Now, find out what is for P here. For cell P, so what we have to write, water potential is equal to solute potential plus pressure potential. So, here if you take water potential is equal to, what is the solute potential for P? Minus 0.3, 5 is, pressure is 0.2, it become minus 0.1. Similarly, for cell Q, so what are the values we have to calculate? Solute potential plus pressure potential. So, how much is the value we get for Q? Minus 0.5 plus 0.7. Okay. Then you will get this one as what? Plus 0.2. Right. So, when you take these values here this is minus 0.1, or here you take minus plus 0.2. Then what is the question? Find out water potential difference between P and Q. Then what we have to take? Water potential value for P, if you take, this is minus 0.1 and this is plus, a difference when we have to calculate, you have to take minus of 0.2. That means water potential value of P minus water potential value of Q. Water potential value of P is minus 0.1, water potential value of Q is 0.2. Then what is the difference here? Plus into minus is minus. So, minus it will become then minus 0.3. What is the difference here? Minus 0.3 megapascals. So, the answer could be water potential difference between P and Q is minus 0.3 megapascals. So, according to the question, as per the question you have to calculate the values, and what is being asked in the question, accordingly you have to find out the solution. So, these are the numericals on water potential values, solute potential values, pressure potential values, osmosis, DPD values, right. Now, let us continue further. Now, in transport implants, let us see some of the important concepts. Let us see which are the previous NEET questions and aims point of view. If you look at which concepts are very important. So, in this let us talk about the difference between osmotic pressure and turgor pressure. This question mostly they repeated in aims as well as in NEET 2011. So, almost in every year, excuse me one second, just one second. So, sorry, let us continue. So, if you look at here the difference between osmotic pressure and turgor pressure when we take, what is that osmotic pressure and turgor pressure? Osmotic pressure we call it as OP and turgor pressure is called as TP. So, when it is mentioned in the question that OP minus TP, so I will write here OP minus TP itself is nothing but what? DPD. So, we say DPD is equal to OP minus TP. So, what are the options given here? DPD is given, transpiration pull is given, osmotic pressure is given, solute potential is given. It was appeared in NEET 2011 as well as most frequently appeared in aims. So, now let us take what is the option for this? The option for this is nothing but DPD. So, this is nothing but DPD. The difference between osmotic pressure and turgor pressure is DPD. Now, next one, I just took few questions to make you understand what is the importance of the concepts. Here the questions what you can see on the board here that stresses the concept, which concept is more important in terms of final NEET. Now, look at here, the space between plasma membrane and cell wall of a plasmolysed cell surrounded by a hypertonic solution is occupied by. Guys, I will tell you, this is most of the times it got repeated. Very important question. And it was a direct question from NCERT, a very important question. What is the meaning of this? Space between plasma membrane and cell wall. Plasma membrane and cell wall. I hope this part is visible. I hope this part. So, here if you look at in the plant cell, this is nothing but the cell wall. What you find here is cell wall. Let us take this as cell wall. This is nothing but getting plasmolysed. Let us take this is nothing but cell membrane. So, what is the question here? Space between cell wall and cell membrane. The space what you find here, the space between cell wall and cell membrane is occupied by, what is present? It is being occupied by, where it is kept here? Hypertonic solution. And what is happening in hypertonic solution? Plasmolysis. What is happening in hypertonic solution? Plasmolysis. So, we have the concept called plasmolysis and deplasmolysis. Plasmolysis, remember always it happens in hypertonic. Deplasmolysis happens in hypotonic solution. Very important. So, here this question quite number of times it got repeated, NEET 2011 and also got repeated in aims. That means here this question says that we need to stress out the concept called plasmolysis. We need to stress out the concept called as what? Plasmolysis. On plasmolysis we have a chance of getting the final NEET question. Now, when you look at what is the question meaning? Space between plasma membrane and cell wall. This is a cell wall, this is a cell membrane. What is happening in this case? This is getting plasmolysed. So, when plasmolysed is happening, what happens? Solution comes out of the cell. Solution comes out of the cell. What happens here? Exosmosis. Solution is moving out of the cell, inside the cell membrane to outside the cell. Then cell is kept in where? Hypertonic. Then automatically here the space is also being occupied by hypertonic solution. Why? Inside the cell, when you look at here, you find higher water potential. Inside the cell, you find higher water potential. Outside the cell, what we find is nothing but lower water potential. Movement is happening from higher water potential to lower water potential. When water is going out, along with that even solute molecules and the inorganic salts whatever are present are also going out here because cell is in hypertonic. So, when it is going, a lot of salt concentrations, when water is moving out, what happens? Here salts will get accumulate, solute molecules will get accumulate. Then the space between cell wall and cell membrane, it's occupied by hypertonic only. Direct NCERT question in the middle of the concept of the lesson, the question is being given. Very important, most of the times it got repeated. So, guys, make sure that you remember. So, what is the option for this? It is again hypertonic. Most of the people, they will write this as hypotonic. No, it is not hypotonic. Make sure that you remember this is hypertonic solution. Okay. For example, the question is deplasmolysis. Then what is the option? Suppose read the same question. Suppose the question is given it as the space between plasma membrane and cell wall of a deplasmolized cell surrounded by hypotonic solution is occupied by. Then at that time the answer will be hypotonic, because guys you have to remember very importantly, plasmolysis happens in hypertonic condition. Deplasmolysis happens in hypotonic solution. So, at that time the option will be hypotonic, but here it is asked about plasmolized. So, option will be hypertonic solution. So, what you can see here, this is cell wall, cell membrane, space between cell wall and cell membrane is occupied by hypertonic solution. Next, the question is the process by which water is absorbed by a solid like colloids. So, here whenever the question is about solids, colloids, causing them to increase in volume, then it talks about surface adsorption. What it talks about? Surface adsorption. Maybe the question may be in terms, I am talking about third question here. The question may be in terms of colloids. The question may be in terms of increase in volume, where in case of wood, or maybe in terms of seed germination, or maybe the bottle filled with seeds. So, you can take the bottle is fully filled with seeds, bottle filled with seeds. Okay, the bottle filled with seeds, right? Or sometimes they talk about what you call wooden doors, wooden windows, or early ancient man by splitting of rocks, boulders, for splitting of rocks and boulders. Then for all these things, because almost for every alternate year we have the question on imbibition. This is a process, is nothing but what? Imbibition. Almost every alternate year we have the question on imbibition. This is also repeated question, most repeated question. So, here you need to understand, we have a chance to get the concept called plasmolysis. Here you have to understand, we have the chance to get the question on DPD, because earlier question papers we have many questions on DPD. Similarly, almost every alternate year we have the question on imbibition. Sometimes they will ask you a question that water is absorbed by solids like colloids, causing them to increase in volume. Sometimes the same question will be asked in terms of increase in volume in wood, or increase in volume in seed germination, or the bottle filled with the seeds, or moisture content. Even you can take example orchids, epiphytes. Epiphytes, they contain what? Orchids. You know, first year root modifications we studied. In root modifications we studied about what are called velamin roots, epiphytic roots, velamin roots we find. Epiphytic means the plants which grow on the surface of huge branches of other plants. There epiphytes, the best example is orchids, vanda, or sometimes even in the question they will ask you about a vanda. This all contains what? Velamin roots. Velamin roots absorb moisture content from the atmosphere again by the process called as imbibition. If at all the question is asked about orchids and vanda, then it is an interrelated question between first year syllabus and second year syllabus, connecting morphology and second year transport in plants. So, such kind of interrelated questions you can expect. Almost every alternate NEET paper including this question is also repeated in AIIMS, that remember we have chance to get a question on the concept called imbibition. Imbibition, all examples you need to remember thoroughly. Sometimes in lower classes respiration experiment we have. The two bottles are taken with the seeds and cork screw is placed. After some time the bottle cap blew up. It is because of more swelling on the surface of the seed as they take water due to respiration. That is also surface adsorption we call, as we studied as a jar experiment for respiration. There the process also comes as nothing but what? Imbibition. Next, which is not a purpose of transpiration. Guys, why I have given? Because every paper we have a question on transpiration. Every year NEET question paper we have a question related to transpiration. It may be opening and closing of stomata, it may be factors of stomata, it may be related to the concept which we related to anatomy of first year. In the first year anatomy chapter where we studied very clearly about xylem and phloem, and we need to add some question even about phloem transport also, right. So, transpiration, if you take, transpiration is a necessary evil. What does it mean? What is the statement I am giving you? Transpiration is a necessary evil, means most important process, it has to take place in plants is nothing but transpiration. So, we had a question on NEET 2012 followed by AIIMS also we have. Every alternate paper, every paper will have a question on transpiration. Now, look at the question here, which is not a purpose of transpiration. For this most of the people have confused and they have given some other option. So, that is why I am discussing question with you here. First option is, look at the options, prevents loss of water, helps in absorption and transport, makes cells rigid and cools leaf surface. Now, coming to the last, let us go from back to up, last option, cools leaf surface. Does you think it is correct? Yes, transpiration is nothing but what? Loss of water. It causes cooling of leaf surface. It reduces the temperature up to 10 to 15 degrees centigrade. 10 to 15 degrees centigrade temperature, it decreases surrounding the leaf. It is because of the process called as transpiration. Direct statement from NCERT. Let us go to C option. Makes cells rigid. What is the meaning of make cell rigid? So, when continuous loss of water is happening from the cell and again it is trying to pull the water from the next neighbor cell, that makes the cells rigid, because cell walls are, when you talk about the cell wall, coming to this part, cell walls are non-living and moreover they are rigid, and moreover cell wall is permeable. Cell wall allows the entry of everything to pass across the cell wall. Cell wall is permeable, it allows everything to enter inside the cell. So that is why it makes the cells rigid. Even this is a correct statement, even this is a correct statement. And coming to B option, helps in absorption and transport. So, we have the concept in NCERT, that is transpiration and photosynthesis compromise. At that time, to make the photosynthesis to happen, transpiration has to take place. Why transpiration has to take place? It helps in absorption. From the root it will take the water and it will transport to the upper parts of the plant, so that there is a loss of water and water will be supplied to all the parts of the cell and it becomes the cells, it makes the cells turgid. Every cell get a chance to get water at the time of absorption or in upward transport of water. Then some amount of water is useful for photosynthesis. photosynthesis, not only for photosynthesis, 5%, less than 5% of water is utilized for metabolic processes, photosynthesis, respiration and translocation and other metabolic processes. Remaining 90 to 95% of water is lost by the process called transpiration. So, 3 options are correct, but in the question is asked not a purpose, they asked. Not a purpose means transpiration will not cause that. What is that? Prevents loss of water. Generally in the people mind, loss of water will be fixed in the mind. So, without seeing, without observing the knot, generally if you take psychology of the students, without observing the knot, they will see which is not a purpose of transpiration. Mind don't recognizes the question is having knot. Simply they see purpose of transpiration. They look for the first option, okay, loss of water, they will go for first option. But first option, loss of water and absorption and transport, cells rigid, leaf surface if you take, these 3 will happen. Generally loss of water prevents, it does not happen. Loss of water happens, not means they look for other options, they do not think for first option, but in the first option is given prevents loss of water. So, generally they will skip the first option, they will go to second or third or fourth option. But guys, make sure that you see the question carefully. Not a purpose means it makes the loss of water, but it is given prevents loss of water, it will not prevent the loss of water. So, this is not a purpose means first option will come, first option is the option. So, nice question, a good small basic question, but very good question. It also appeared in NEET 2012. Right. Now, let us go to stomatal opening is influenced by. Generally we take the factors carbon dioxide and all, but generally here if you take opening and closing of stomata will be having a question. Most frequently if you look at previous NEET question papers, mostly we have questions on opening and closing of stomata. Sometimes the questions are on factors of opening and closing of stomata. Sometimes we have a questions on scotoactive stomata. They questioned in the concept saying that how stomata opens in the night time, how it get closed in the daytime, scotoactive stomata. And even we have questions on translocation and what factors favors the opening of stomata, what factors favors the closing of stomata. On these concepts of opening and closing of stomata, we have previous NEET questions. So, here one of the question I wrote here for your understanding. So, here the question is stomatal opening is influenced by, it is given in NEET 2011, also appeared in AIIMS. So, look at the first option, nitrogen concentration, carbon dioxide concentration and light. Now, if you look at in this question, carbon dioxide is a factor, light is the factor, but nitrogen is not the factor. Right. Come to the second one, carbon dioxide is a factor, temperature is a factor, light is a factor. So, obviously we will get back to the second option, but we will see, we will check again third and fourth option also. Nitrogen definitely it is not the factor. So, leave the rest even though light and temperature are the factors. Carbon dioxide, yes, it is a factor, but nitrogen is not the factor, and temperature. See in this question, if nitrogen, if you know it is not a factor, then you can eliminate first option, third option, fourth option. You can eliminate and conformly closing your eyes, you can go for second option. That is nothing but B, that is carbon dioxide plays very important and vital role in opening and closing of stomata. Now, this question may be sometimes related to the first year anatomy. First year textbook you have anatomy chapter, you know it very well. The xylem, vessels, tracheids, fibers and parenchyma, they are nothing but non-living conducts and they carry water, they causes upward movement of water. Finally, xylem and phloem together responsible for supply of water to the stomata. Stomata undergoes a process called transpiration. Next, so this is also appeared in AIIMS, let you remember. What I mean to say here is the concept where we have chance to get the questions. Here I am not only speaking about the question, the concepts from where we have a chance to get the questions. Next one, which one give the most valid and recent explanation for stomatal movements? Now, if you look at for opening and closing of stomata, there are so many theories. Now, if you search You have so many hypotheses, so many theories given by different scientists across the world. But what is the most universally accepted theory, very latest one, which is accepted by everywhere across the world? Then you have to remember potassium influx and efflux. Why? Because starch hydrolysis takes place in everywhere. In epidermal cell it takes place, God cell it takes place, mesophyll cell it takes place, in every part of the cell wherever photosynthesis happens, the product of photosynthesis is starch. Starch accumulates in all the parts of the plant. So, and when starch gets accumulated, it undergo the breakdown, it reacts and get broken down, it get dissolved in water and produces what? Glucose, fructose, maltose, galactose, all other sugars. As per the requirement of the cell metabolism, it makes use of different type of sugars. So, this happens everywhere, but here the mainly question is about stomatal movement. So, first option is not the one. Second one, God cell photosynthesis. Yeah, God cells contain chloroplast, they undergo photosynthesis, but God cells photosynthesis will not explain about stomatal movement. Next one, transpiration. So, transpiration is nothing but, no doubt stomatal function is transpiration, but transpiration will not explain about opening and closing of stomata. So, what explains is nothing but influx and efflux of potassium. So, if you look at this is stomata, right. So, whenever K plus is coming, I think this is visible, I think, yeah, K plus is coming. So, this is nothing but influx. When there is an influx is there, then what happens? We say when K plus is coming and entering into God cell, that causes opening of stomata. What it causes? Opening of stomata. Right. Suppose if the next question, if you get it, efflux of K plus, meaning K plus is going out of the God cell. When K plus is going out, it will come under what? Closing of stomata. Right. So, you need to be very careful. If K plus is coming inside, it causes opening of stomata. If K plus is going outside, it causes closing of stomata. Why? K plus is coming means automatically Cl minus is also coming inside. Cl minus. If K plus is going out means automatically Cl minus is also going out. So, what makes the factor here is K plus as well as another one is H plus. We have some questions even on H plus concentration. So, all of you remember, for opening and closing of stomata, K plus is important, H plus is important. So, out of all options, potassium influx and efflux. Influx is coming inside the God cells, efflux means going out of the God cells. This is the most valid theory which explains about stomatal movement. Next, in a ring girdle, this also in several number of times appeared the question. In a ring girdle plant, so this question appeared in NEET 2015 and 17 and also 12, to the NEET 2008 also there has the question, and also appeared in AIIMS now. So, what is meant by ring girdle plant? We already have discussed in the concept in the previous classes. Girdling or ringing is nothing but removal of phloem. Right. So, when you take this stem, now across the stem we are making the cutting here. Now, up to where we are removing? Up to phloem. So, when you make this anatomy part, this question is again connected to anatomy part. We have epidermis, then followed by cortex, then followed by endodermis, then followed by what we find? Vascular bundle is there, then we find what? Phloem, and then vascular cambium is here, then followed by xylem. So, if you look at phloem and xylem are separated by what? A vascular cambium, separated by vascular cambium. So, this vascular cambium what we find here. Now, when ringing or girdling means it is removing up to phloem. Surrounding the diameter wise, when you remove the phloem here, this is what is called girdling experiment. This itself is called as girdling experiment. So, when phloem is removed, so you need to know that girdling and ringing, then only you can answer the question. If you do not know about girdling and ringing, you cannot answer this question. Remember, in a ring girdled means the process of removal of phloem, that is called girdling. Now, the question, a number of times the question is being appeared. Look at the options. First option is the shoot and root die together. Root will die, shoot will die at a time spontaneously. Is it so? Definitely no. Neither root nor shoot will die. Both will survive. The second option meaning is root also survives, shoot also survives. Most of the time students will ask this question to me, like how to answer this ring girdled plant. Most of the times they will have a confusion on this question. Guys, ring girdling when you take, remember that root dies first. Shoot will not die first because mesophyll cells have chlorophyll. It prepares its own food even though phloem is obstructed and stopped the food, but leaves can survive because shoot contains leaves. But shoot dies first is not the one related, not correct. What dies first is nothing but shoot. So guys, what I am trying to tell you here is not the questions, you just have to look for concept. Stomatal opening and closing, we have the questions, previous questions. Stomatal movement also we have the previous questions, but when you take the ring girdled plant, when you take, girdling is nothing but what I said, removal of phloem. A phloem means what are the present, epidermis, cortex, endodermis, steel part we are looking for, phloem, vascular cambium, xylem. So girdling meaning always you have to remember the process of removal of phloem. Phloem is removed. Then which part will die and means root and shoot die together is not. Root or not shoot die means both are surviving, that is also not correct. Shoot dies first means no, shoot will have the leaves, they prepare their own food material in the mesophyll cells, they survive little longer time. So even this option will not be correct. And next the root dies first because root will not have the food unless the phloem supplies the food, then only the root will survive. It cannot survive alone with water. So the option here is root dies first. Next, let us talk about phloem transport. Most frequently we have questions on the final NEET and aims. Loading, unloading of materials, both processes are here nothing but active transport, very important. Phloem transport is bidirectional. Most of the times we have a question on phloem transport. And next, even frequently we have a question on ascent of sap. Ascent of sap meaning upward transport of water, upward transport of water, ascent of sap we generally call. So, upward transport of water. Upward transport of water, that itself is called ascent of sap. Water is going upward direction, it is called ascent of sap. This is explained by a theory called cohesion tension theory. It is cohesion and tension theory. And remember, that was given by Dickson. It was given by the scientist Dickson. So, cohesion tension theory explains about what we call ascent of sap. Right? Next, apart from this, here even we can say that transpiration is a necessary evil. Transpiration is a necessary evil, meaning most important process to be happen in case of trees. This is a true statement. Transpiration is a necessary evil. This is a true statement, and this whenever the option, most commonly this option will come in the middle of the questions. One of the option will be this is correct, and it's the most important statement when we talk about transpiration. So apart from this, even take bulk flow, mass flow, or the question form varies, but most of the times the question will be related to phloem transport. Phloem transport, the question may be asked in terms of bulk flow and mass flow. So concept wise we have discussed some questions. I will try to give you the concept wise which are the more concepts you need to focus in transport in plants. Accordingly you will get to know that when you are reading the chapters you can stress and you can stop the place where you have more weightage for NEET and aims.